You lonely hearts out there, beware. For skillful scammers lay in search for prey, playing on the emotions and desires of hundreds of men or women seeking companionship, convincing them to enter doom. The 1940s saw Susanna Mildred Hill, the mastermind behind the original catfishing scandal, the Lonely Hearts scam. Lonely Hearts scam is a fascinating glimpse into early confidence tricks and the power of manipulation before the age of the internet. As we peel back the layers of history, we find ourselves in the 1940s, a time when personal ads were the lifeline of lonely hearts. Susanna Mildred Hill, then in her 60s, crafted an elaborate persona of a beautiful young woman in her 20s to engage with potential suitors. Through skillful correspondence, she played on the emotions and desires of hundreds of men who were seeking companionship, convincing them to send her gifts under the belief they were courting a young woman. Amidst this backdrop of war, pain, change, and longing, Susanna Mildred Hill crafted a deception so elaborate it would become legend. Her modus operandi was meticulous. For a woman in her 60s, it was unusual to be so criminally inclined. She would scour newspapers for personal ads, targeting those who expressed a desire for companionship, love, or marriage. With the skill of a novelist, she created a persona that was everything these men dreamed of. Young, beautiful, and seemingly just out of reach. But how did she convince them? The answer lies in her letters. Each was a masterpiece of manipulation, tailored to the desires and vulnerabilities of her target. She spoke of love, of a future together, weaving a fantasy so compelling that her victims were all too willing to send gifts, money, even engagement rings, to a woman they had never met. What's truly fascinating is the scale of Hill's scam. Over the years, she corresponded with hundreds of men, each convinced they were the only one in her heart. Consequently, gifts and riches poured in, funding a lifestyle that was lavish for the time. But why were so many men duped? The 1940s were a time of war and uncertainty. Hill exploited this, playing on the most basic human desire. The victims of Hill's deception were as varied as the society from which they came. Each man, in his vulnerability, saw in Hill's letters a beacon of hope, a promise of love in a time when the future seemed uncertain. Hill's exploitation was not random, it was predatory. Her letters were customized to echo their desires and fears. This psychological manipulation ensured that her victims were emotionally invested. But how did such a widespread deception come to an end? The unraveling began when two of her victims coincidentally met and exchanged stories. As if a scene in a movie, the victims, shocked by the similarities of their experiences, sought the help of the authorities. The investigation that followed revealed a trail of deceit leading directly to Hill. Similar letters, photographs, and the testimony of multiple men painted a clear picture of her manipulation.
Hill's capture was a turning point in understanding confidence scams. It showed the importance of communication among victims and the role of law enforcement in piecing together seemingly unrelated reports into a cohesive case against a scammer.
Once caught, Hill faced the consequences of her actions. The legal system at the time struggled to categorize her crime, but fraud and deception charges were eventually brought against her. Her trial was a sensation, drawing attention to the vulnerability of the heart and the dangers of deception. Today, the Lonely Hearts scam seems almost quaint compared to the sophisticated catfishing operations on the internet. But the essence remains the same: exploitation of those seeking love. A shocking case in recent times is that of a Ghanaian social media influencer who was extradited from the United Kingdom to the US for allegedly swindling over $2 million from older single American men and women in a twisted Lonely Hearts scam. Mona Faiz Montrage, age 30, of Accra, Ghana, appeared in Manhattan federal court for her alleged involvement in a series of romance schemes targeting older people who lived alone, prosecutors said. Montrage, who had around 3.4 million Instagram followers of her page Hajia for Real at one point, from at least 2013 through 2019, was involved with a group of con artists from West Africa who assumed fake identities to trick people into thinking they were in relationships with them using emails, texts, and social media messages. Suffice to say, the tools have changed, but the game has not. Social media, dating apps, and online forums are the new battlegrounds. The Susanna Mildred Hills of the world now hide behind screens. Awareness and technology are key in combating these modern scams. Verification processes, video calls, and online resources offer a layer of protection that didn't exist in Hill's time. Thank you for watching. For more deep dives into history's most intriguing stories, subscribe and join us on the next adventure into the past.